that the construction and real estate group of the chamber was created to cater for the specific needs of the operators in the built environment. So our membership is open to all operators in the built environment, consultants, contractors, architects, QSEs, service providers in the industry. You know, in the course of this webinar, the secretary will be sharing with you on how to join the chamber and how to join the group as well. For this webinar, we have brought in 3 great institutions who play pivotal roles in the affordable housing segment. And as you will hear from our president when he introduces, in his welcome address, he will say exactly the philosophy underpinning today's program. So I just want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us, and to say that we should all look forward to a very, very stimulating and interesting engagement. Thank you once again. And now we proceed to the national anthem, and then the programs goes on from there. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you. Just by way of further guidelines, if you're, as you see on the screen, if your Zoom volume is too low, check your system volume. Also, to know that the webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. There's a chat icon, so if you have comments, if you have questions, please kindly submit them via the Q&A icon. This is being collated by the Secretariat, and when we get to the Q&A session, the panelists will be asked to attend to your question. If you are addressing your question to a specific panel member, please do indicate. Otherwise, the moderator will call on the panel to attend to those questions. I think that's just about all. Let's just be attentive. I believe that we are in for a very interesting and scintillating time this afternoon. Thank you very much once again, and we'll now proceed to the President's welcome address.
Thank you very much, Akim, our chairman of the Construction and Real Estate Group of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for the warm introduction and for starting this up promptly and with a stellar cast of actors in the construction and real estate industry. Dear patrons and council members of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar themed Affordable Housing, the Next Frontier, which has been organized by our chamber through one of our trade groups, and I must say, one of our very, very active and successful trade groups, the Construction and Real Estate Group, under the chairmanship of our dear friend, Akim Buniram. When we created this group a few years ago, our objective was to develop a robust advocacy platform for addressing the issues affecting the real estate and housing sector of the Nigerian economy and prefer appropriate solutions for all stakeholders. In furtherance of this objective, we had organized real estate focused conferences, seminars, and webinars on such issues as navigating tax issues in real estate transactions, resolving construction and real estate disputes, and the impact of COVID-19 on the real estate industry in the recent past. We are focusing on a subject that is very dear to many people. Shelter is a basic human need. Unfortunately, many Nigerians are unable to afford decent and livable accommodation. With the housing deficit in excess of 17 million homes, ownership of homes rate in Nigeria is just about 25%. Now, if you look across other nations, this is not a figure to be proud of. For instance, in South Africa, we have an ownership rate of 56%. In Kenya, 60%. In the Netherlands, which is first world country, 67.8%. In Cuba, 90%. Singapore, 90.8%. And Romania, 96.4%. You can see that in all cases stated above, everyone is over 50%. Indeed, the 56% is like an outlier. So that shows that we really have a major problem in Nigeria. And the COVID-19 pandemic has truly exposed the vulnerabilities of our housing ecosystem and the depth of the risk and challenges being faced by the large majority of the populace due to lack of access to affordable and quality housing. Earlier in September 2019, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Adequate Housing, Leilani Farah, after a 10-day mission in Nigeria, painted a rather grim picture of the state of housing in the country. She noted that what she saw was the most severe she had encountered worldwide. According to her, and I quote, "Nigeria's housing system is in crisis. Government has allowed informal and unplanned settlements to balloon, and the conditions of these settlements are not humane. These informal settlements lack access to the most basic services, including running water," unquote. The factors militating against housing delivery in Nigeria are well known. These include high cost of land. Land is unusually high in places like Lagos and Abuja, and indeed many other cities like Port Harcourt and so on and so forth. There is a lot of bureaucracy that is entitled in the process of titling. There's a high cost of perfection of titles, and then even the problem of obtaining permits and approvals takes such a long time. There's inadequacy of infrastructure funding, and there are huge supply chain challenges. Now, in spite of these obvious challenges, our chamber believes that we have to change the narrative on affordable housing in Nigeria. Given that Nigeria will be about the third most populous country in the world by 2050, with about 75% of the population being 30 years and below, we do at this moment have a responsibility to recreate the housing value chain in order to provide shelter for our people. We also recognize that there are several initiatives at the various levels of government which may turn out to be game-changing if properly executed. And I'm happy that on the call today, on this webinar, there are many people who will speak to those initiatives, beautiful initiatives, and they would very well help to address the problems if well implemented. Our chamber family believes that it is time to move beyond the usual rhetoric and focus on specific action plans to drive housing delivery and affordability for the people. In particular, the vulnerable ones in our society. And believe me, there are quite a lot of vulnerable people in our society. Just walk the streets of Lagos and Abuja, you see people sleeping under the bridge. And some have been doing that for years and years and years. Our objective as a chamber is to underscore the ongoing initiatives and profile specific solutions for cracking the housing problems in Nigeria and possibly the sub-Saharan Africa. It will be recalled that as part of its policy responses to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Central Bank of Nigeria had promised to focus attention on bridging the housing deficit, facilitating government intervention in 3 critical areas of housing development, mortgage finance, and institutional capacity development, and creating a fund that would target housing construction for developers that provide evidence of profiled off-takers with financial capacity to repay. It is gratifying to note that a 200 billion intervention fund was recently launched for the housing sector. It is against this background that we organized today's webinar. We have put together a panel of experts who will distill the issues, analyze the ongoing initiatives, and provide practical solutions that will help to move the housing sector forward. Mr. Femi Adewale is the Managing Director, Family Homes Funds Nigeria, and is represented today by Mr. Yakubu Sani, the Chief Investment Officer. Yakubu is an old friend of mine. Thank you very much, Yakubu, and please send our regards to Mr. Femi Adewale. Mr. Adewale is a housing finance professional and chartered architect with over 25 years experience in the industry. He has occupied senior positions in some of the largest housing organizations in the United Kingdom, including Notting Hill Housing, where he was Group Operations Director, and the Guinness Trust, where he was Investment Director. He was also a one-time acting Managing Director of Shelter Afrique in Kenya. He will speak through Yakubu Sani today to the various initiatives of the Family Home Fund and the implementation of the new 200 billion CBN Housing Intervention Fund. Our second speaker is also a seasoned finance and business executive who has had highly successful business turnarounds and fundraising initiatives in several housing finance corporations. His institution deals exclusively with providing affordable housing finance and advisory solution in Africa. Is Mr. Andrew Chipunda, Managing Director of Shelter Afrique, Kenya. And of course, it cannot come bigger than that. Shelter Afrique, as we all know, is a major, major participant, leader of the industry in Africa. Andrew will give insights into the successful models of affordable housing in various African countries and how Nigeria may key into the Shelter Afrique's new strategic thrust for affordable housing delivery in Africa. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us all the way and for your Nigerianness today. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll benefit a lot from your regional and international experience. Our third speaker is Mr. Kehinde Ogudemu, Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company Limited. Kehinde is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, FCA, and a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. He's an accomplished finance and mortgage expert who serves aboard a company with the main objective of promoting home ownership by providing long-term funding to operators in the Nigerian mortgage industry. Thank you very much, Kehinde, for the great job that you are doing in our country. Our fourth speaker is an expert in real estate marketing, strategic planning, and construction, who is involved in project building and helping managers and relevant stakeholders tackle issues that may surround pricing and construction in project management. He is the co-founder of Nigeria's first construction and real estate price discovery platform, LiveVent. I'm pleased to welcome Mr. John Wamen, another good friend of the chamber, and the Chief Executive Officer, Construct Technology Limited. Thank you very much, John, for creating time to join us. Our moderator for today's webinar is Mrs. Jumoke Akinwumi, who is the co-founder of Olivia Property Development Company. She's a skilled stakeholder with a demonstrated history in the investment management in real estate development, real estate economics, and investment properties. And obviously also I learned today that she's obviously a very strong follower of the British Football League. I am quite certain that this distinguished assembly of industry leaders will do justice to the subject, and we shall all be better prepared to navigate the future of affordable housing in Nigeria. I especially recognize the patrons and council members of NBCC who have joined us on this webinar. I also thank members of our secretariat and indeed all the members of the Construction and Real Estate Group for organizing this excellent event. Permit me to state at this juncture that the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce is a bilateral organization whose main objective is to foster trade between Nigeria and the UK. We are 43 years old, and we have over 350 top corporate organizations in Nigeria. As I always say, and for those who have been on any of our webinars, what you want to ask is, who is that, or which is that corporate organization, leaders of their sectors that are not members of the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce? You can hardly see it. Almost all the leaders of the Nigerian organized private sector are members of this chamber. And we must say that we have a very, very long and rich history of excellence, and that has helped us and endeared us to our membership. May I also draw your attention to a special list, or what I call the elite list of our members, the premium members, which include Standard Chartered Bank, PwC, Access Bank, the British Airways, Custodian and Allied Insurance, First Bank, Fidelity Bank, UTL Trustees, and Weber Bank PLC. These are special members who have always helped to fund the activities of this chamber, to provide advice and technical support. And I do look forward to one of the organizations on this call today, maybe Family Home Funds, maybe Shelter Afrique. One of you should try and join and become a premium member one way or the other. The NBCC is an affiliate of the British Chamber of Commerce, which gives our members access to a network of 53 chambers across the UK and 49 other affiliates worldwide. Let me use the opportunity to also invite those who are not yet our members to please do so by picking up our forms or by just simply visiting our website. And once you do that, you will become a member of the foremost bilateral chamber in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also seize this opportunity to draw the attention of this special audience to our NBCC Plaza. It's a 4-story structure we're building somewhere in Lekki, phase 1, and it is meant to provide accommodation for our secretariat, house and incubation center for British and indeed businesses from Europe and other parts of the world when they come into Nigeria in their formative stages. As you know, sometimes settling into a new jurisdiction can be a challenge. So that incubation center will help new businesses settle and, of course, become part of the Nigerian culture and the Nigerian way of doing business, and positive ways of doing business, and hopefully have a long stay in our environment. So that would be one of the objectives of that property that is being developed. And it also provides a center for seminars and training for our members and the general public. Significant progress has been made. If any one of you drives by our sector, you will see that. But of course, we still need support. And if there are those who wish to support us, please feel very free to do so in cash and kind. And we will reach some of you after this call to see what you can do to support. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention and wish you a productive session. I now have the pleasure to invite today's moderator, Mrs. Jumoke Akinwumi, and the panelists, Femi Adewale and Richard Punda, John Oamem, and Kendi Ogudimo, to share their views with the audience. Thank you very much, Mrs. Akinwumi.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Falon. And thank you to our host, the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. It's an honor to moderate this interesting session. It promises to be. The hosts have said repeatedly that this is not a talk shop. It will not be a talk shop. My job here is very simple. I also want to use this opportunity to quickly say a big thank you to our sponsors, Octo5 Holdings, Lagos Building Investment Company Limited, Refen Homes, and LiveVend. Thank you so much for joining us to make this event a possibility. And thank you to the nearly 100 participants who have joined us on this platform today. Without wasting any more time, I would like to invite our first speaker, who would be sharing a presentation talking to the plans and prospects and activities of the entity that they run, which is the Family Homes Funds. It promises to be quite an engaging one. And so let's listen attentively and let's learn a few things about what is happening, truly happening in the housing development, especially the affordable housing space. Thank you very much. So Mr. Yakubu, over to you.
Jumoke, thank you very much. I will first of all try to see if I can share my screen with us all. Okay. I see you would like to share the screen. Yes, you're doing that already. Okay, thank you very much for that. My responsibility this afternoon, I would want you to permit me to say, is indeed very challenging to represent easily one of Africa's best minds as far as this critical area of affordable housing is concerned. As the chairman of the British Chamber of Commerce has said, Mr. Femi Adewale, the MD of Family Homes Funds Limited, has proven himself across the globe, you know, in different aspects of delivering housing. So I'll try to do my best. I hope I score some good marks in doing this. Okay, at the end of the day, I'll get my marks out of 10. I'd also like to thank the chairman of the chamber and to say that he's touched some very critical statistics. He talked about Cuba and 90% ownership rate. And this is what really every society would strive to achieve. It's no different in Nigeria. And the fact that we are at the levels at which we are is indeed a reason why making housing available for all Nigerians a great challenge. One of the arrowheads of achieving this that the federal government of Nigeria is seeking to utilize to improve the affordable housing position is the Family Homes Funds. Family Homes Funds is a social housing finance fund, and it is aimed at improving the quality of life of Nigerians on low income. And that's the broad-based objective. It was a response to the need that we've underscored at the beginning of this webinar. And essentially, it's taking the strategy of providing accessible financing for the public and private sector in efforts to make housing much more available in Nigeria. Family Homes Funds has been playing in this field since 2016, and the key shareholders are the Ministry of Finance and the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Fund. What do we do? 4 buckets, 4 essential types of products. We have the affordable housing scheme. We have the help to own, which provides home loans assistance. We're currently developing with majorly 6 housing development corporations across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria, the Rental Housing Fund. We also are very much involved in setting up a land development fund. What are our impact strategies? To be financially viable, well-governed, to work with people and ensure critical strategic relationships are in place. Can we see the next slide? Thank you. So what have we achieved so far? Now, in terms of what the global standards are, I won't say that this is the very best, but so far we have about 10,000 housing units at the moment. This figures are about 2-3 months old, but as we speak right now, we have about 10,000 housing units under construction. The price range, which is a matter or an issue that addresses the core of the problem as far as housing is concerned. The mandate of the institution was to provide housing opportunity for the low to medium income earners. Now we look at the range from 3 million all the way to 15 million. But our concentration is actually between the 3 million and the 11 million margin for our own affordable housing fund bucket. As we go further down the road, we'll see that the National Social Housing Program has price ranges that are far below all of this. We are located in many parts of the country. I wouldn't bother you with all of this, but all the way from Nasarawa to Borno. We're very strong in the Northeast to try to also contribute to reducing the security issues and social instability issues in that part of the country. Now, the Family Home Funds is a key intervention of the economic sustainability plan of the federal government. And the social housing program is designed majorly to deliver 300,000 housing units across all of Nigeria and the FCT. Now, what is the structure of delivery? The federal government is passing the funds to Family Homes Funds, which has been appointed as the project manager. They pass the funds through the CBN via a guarantee from the Ministry of Finance. We're dealing majorly with cooperatives and such well-organized groups across the entire country. We've already had several meetings with such groups in order to be able to sensitize Nigerians about this opportunity to do 300,000 houses across the country as a whole. Can we see the next slide? The objective of the social housing program is essentially to ensure that we deliver a reasonable number of these 300,000 affordable homes in good time. And the pricing range we're looking at is between 2 million and 3.5 million. As all of us would be aware and agree, the construction industry is an area in which job creation can easily be attained. And so we're looking at 1.8 million direct employment. We're also hoping that there'll be a lot of on-site manufacturing that will take place, and that all of this will impact the quality of life of Nigerians, both for those who will offtake the houses and for those that will benefit from job creation around the program. Okay, can we see the next slide? This is the meat of the program. It shows that there will be two funds essentially. And if you look at FHFL, it is Fund Manager 1, and the Federal Mortgage Bank is going to be Fund number 2. FHFL will be involved in the construction financing component, where it will work with cooperatives and such organized groups that will be responsible for providing sites and locations that are as close as possible to infrastructure. When my elder brother Kayode Falowo was speaking, he talked about some of the challenges of making affordable housing more available, and infrastructure is a key issue. And the way we intend to address this is to say to the cooperatives, to say to the state governments, we will be building houses in models of 500 units. Can you give us land in your state, in your area, in your location, that allows us to overcome the issue or the challenge of infrastructure? And then we have the funding to come in quickly and work with you using project management offices for value delivery, for quality, to deliver houses at the targeted prices. Now, the key issue after delivering the houses really is, what is the offtake? So we're hoping that the Fund 2, and we're praying that this part will be completed very quickly. We understand the Federal Mortgage Bank is in very advanced discussions with the CBN and the Ministry of Finance, that in the Fund 2, the Federal Mortgage Bank will be able to provide the affordability for the cooperative staff members, or indeed other members of the public who will be off-taking the houses. Now, in delivering these houses, we're looking, and this was a point that the Vice President made very strongly, we're looking to ensure that SME delivery partners consisting mainly of young professionals, young Nigerians, young architects, young quantity surveyors, young builders would be among those that will be key beneficiaries in the job creation component of the project. Now, one way we are seeking also to address the challenge of delivering between 2 to 3 million for 1 and 2 bed and 3 bed apartments. And when I say 1 bed, I'm referring to what the Nigerians would typically refer to as the 1 bedroom. So if we get the land free, and the land is infrastructured, if I may use that phrase, so we don't need to put infrastructure on the land and then add that cost to the delivery, this will help deliver. So we will make requests to the state governments, we'll make requests to cooperatives, for land that we will not have to pay for. And like I said, this essentially is the way the plan is supposed to work. And we have, on our part, really advanced conversation with the CBN. And at this point, I would say that we're 99% sure of delivering the guarantee and obtaining the funding from the CBN. Can we see the next slide?
Mr. Yakubu, you need to wrap up now.
All right, so yeah, I will try to do that very quickly. These are the housing types. Habitable rooms, 2 at 2 million, 3 at 2.7, and 4 at 3.25. Can we take the next slide? Well, I've talked about the partners, 15 SME delivery partners, 1 management contractor per 500 unit site. We're hoping that this will impact the environment and impact the lives of Nigerians in those localities. Next slide. We hope to put in place very soon, in a week or two, a portal that will ensure that collaborating with our strategic partners and giving all Nigerians an opportunity to interact with us on a ground that is fair and on a ground that is equal. We're hoping that this portal will be launched very soon. I think at this point, I would say that my time is running out. I'd like to say thank you to all of us. We are all at Family Home Funds very grateful for the opportunity to make this delivery. The British Chamber of Commerce, I've heard the request from the chairman that we need to try and maybe improve, reach out to them in terms of relationship. I will convey that while we are at our best in achieving this very high and very critical target for all Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Yakubu, for sharing with all of us what Family Homes Funds has been doing. Seems a little quiet, but obviously there's a lot of work that has been happening, and we're pleased to hear that the target market for the social housing program is up to 3 million. I think that's what I saw. And that actually means that you have taken into consideration the income and the earning power of majority, which is usually the starting point for solving the problem. It's interesting also that there's going to be a lot of emphasis on local manufacturing, of course, creating jobs, which, I mean, you've kind of quantified, and also improving the quality of life. I think that the recent experience has shown us that housing is equal to healthcare, and that it's important that we're able to deal with these issues holistically. So thank you very much once again. I'd like to now invite Mr. Andrew Chiponda, who would be speaking to us about the work that Shelter Afrique, which is Africa's, or Sub-Saharan Africa's housing finance institution, and he'll share with us for a total of 8 minutes. Thank you very much. Andrew, it's over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I have to say, Program Director, thank you for giving us the opportunity as Shelter Afrique, Madam Jumoke. I want to confirm whether or not you are seeing the brief presentation.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to observe all protocols in terms of the Chamber President, Mr. Kayode Olowo, and all the august panel participants that are arguably the global experts in affordable housing. I'll just get into it if program director is happy with that. So
yes, please.
In terms of Shelter Afrique, this is me, in my Maasai attire. We received a lot of negative publicity from a different but very small blogging section, but we will continue Africanism. But this is just a background to say that this is not a fake presentation from a fake CEO. There are things that we've done to get us to where we are today. Thank you very much. And then now, the purpose of my presentation today is to talk about what can Shelter Afrique do for the Nigeria market. We operate in 44 countries. Our head office is in Nairobi, Kenya. We have an authorized share capital in US dollars of 1 billion. And of course, we have 44 countries that are shareholders, and that includes 45 is AFDB and Africa Reinsurance Corporation. Now, why is that important? It's important because our mandate is exclusively to be and support all affordable housing projects throughout the whole of Africa. So in short, we are a housing bank for Africa, but dedicated to focus on the low cost, high volume housing. Our products, now this is probably the key and most important slide. I have to say, one of the things we discussed with Femi, who is a colleague and also has done a lot of great work at Shelter Afrique, was to say, you see, if you come and attend the NBCC webinar yourself, we had a check waiting for Femi to support one of his family homes funds. He's not available now. I don't know what to do with the check, but I'll speak with Mr. Yakubu offline to see whether or not we should still hand it over. So we provide lines of credit, and these are in US dollars. And of course, these are longer term. We are in the process of looking at how do we get into the bond market. There are some things that you have to fulfill in terms of profitability, et cetera, because we believe the Nigerian market will do with local Naira funding, but at a competitive interest rate, instead of pushing the problem back to the banks and the big developers to come up with very innovative hedging mechanisms to deal with the Forex exposure risk. Yet we are a developmental financial institution. We should provide solutions, not pass away problems. We are not a commercial bank, we are a DFI. And then of course we provide corporate loans and credit guarantees. We have just now launched a trade finance package. You know, in light with COVID-19, we've realized that inter-Africa trade between African countries has become much more important because most of the projects that had a big reliance on Chinese and other sort of market products were really affected by the lockdown. So COVID taught us quite a few things. And then lastly, I like the Family Homes Fund model that was just explained to us by Mr. Yakubu, because it promotes public-private partnerships as a key delivery vehicle or product to be able to leverage large-scale, low-cost housing, because we believe as Shelter Afrique, the biggest challenge is affordability. Come up with a low-priced house. I like the pricing at 3 million Naira and below. That's between a range of $5,000 to 8,000 at an average of maybe 385 Naira to a US dollar. Of course, that is fluctuating now and again. So we are here to help. We are here to provide funding. We are very well supported. We thank the Minister of Housing, of course, in Nigeria, Honorable Fashola, and the Minister of State Housing, Dr. Aliu, because they've also committed a significant amount into Shelter Afrique of $29 million, of which we've already received $10 million, and that goes towards supporting projects in Nigeria. So Nigeria is the second largest shareholder of Shelter Afrique. Now, what do we have? Dr. Gambo, also from Nigeria, Dr. Muhammad Gambo has created a Center of Excellence, which is a one-stop shop for all research activities, for all advocacy to assist in the promulgation or improvement of housing policy, for all capacity building or activities throughout the African continent that we provide freely. And then for those that are interested in research, etc., they can contact Dr. Gambo. You've got the website below there. And of course, we've also launched an internship program to benefit those with potential below 30 years within Africa as well. So investment opportunities in real estate, I think it goes without saying, will add value to sustainable development in our beautiful continent. Of course, we're all aware of the SDGs, New Urban Agenda, and also the Africa Union Agenda 2063. I take it you can read the presentation, but this is just to emphasize the fact that we are committed to the Sustainable Development Goal 11 of the United Nations, which is the creation of sustainable cities and communities. This is something which we always talk about, the rapid urbanization in Africa, but we are more interested in how prepared are we in those cities to avoid the proliferation of slums because of the urbanization. So slum upgrading, is something which as Shelter Afrique is a priority in the markets that we serve. When you look at this sheet, and I must say that for the Nigeria 22 million shortage, that is something which the Minister of State, Dr. Aliu, told me I shouldn't quote that. So let's just say for the Nigerian market, the shortage is high. Let's leave it at that. But what I want to state is that after Nigeria, you've got Tanzania, 3 million, you've got DRC, 3 million, and then the other countries about 2 million. The fact is you cannot deal with the affordable housing unit problem without partnerships, without public-private partnerships. Why? Because even alone as an institution, you need at least $3 trillion to deal with the 57, 56 million housing shortage. So we are committed to measuring social impact in terms of sustainable development. We measure the distance of our projects to the main cities, main shopping centers, and also housing development, including roads. We are also looking at how can we empower and deliberately provide funding for women specifically. And all our projects tick the box in terms of enhancing environmental sustainability. So COVID-19, we've looked at COVID-19 and we've said we're going to focus only on the opportunities. We believe housing is that one area where you can achieve growth in the economy, post to COVID. Of course, with United Nations, with the UN Habitat Report, you cannot exercise social distancing, in the slums. That's why in our urban planning, we should start looking at designs that allow you to be able to achieve urban planning. This is just something from the UN showing you how the impact COVID has had on economies. You can see Dar es Salaam from 14%, GDP that's gone down. It's almost 50% drop in the projected GDP because of COVID-19. So in conclusion, how can we revolutionize affordable housing in COVID-19 era? There's a lot of talk that happens. There's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of research papers, but I think this is the time we believe that we should have all those expertise, knowledge come to bear in terms of implementation. Large scale construction, of course, we provide funding not only to tier 1, tier 2 banks, but also to large developers. We would and we will work with Family Homes Fund, if not just to provide a line of credit to support the 300,000 housing project in Nigeria. So we support large-scale construction, trade finance to enhance regional integration. Of course, that is something which we've already explained, that it's a new product on all projects. We want to also provide lines of credit, LCs, etc., to support the importation of materials in between the individual countries within South Africa and also abroad. And then, of course, adopt emerging technologies. The pandemic has served as an impetus to adopt dynamic technologies to enhance affordable housing delivery, of course, such as blockchain, remote project management, and modular construction. A lot of this sometimes is theoretical, but in conclusion, Program Director, we as Shelter Afrique embrace any and all technology, any and all sorts of innovation, but most importantly, pragmatic routes to be able to deliver units, because our shareholders expect us to add value in terms of development impact in all their countries, which is manifested by housing units and not ideas of how we're going to deliver on those housing units. Thank you, Madam Jumoke, for the opportunity to present.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Andrew, for your presentation. That actually hits us at the heart of the matter. The push toward large-scale developments, large-scale construction is the only way to think about affordable housing. It's interesting that it has taken COVID to get us to start thinking more in the lines of regional integration and regional trade. The doors shut to China has forced us as Africans to look at each other and say, you know, what do you produce and what can I produce for you? The idea of adopting technology, certainly homegrown technology is fantastic, but also it's possible to take technologies from other parts of the continent or the world and adopt those to suit. So thank you for this, and I'm sure there'll be a number of questions waiting for you. I'd like to invite the next speaker, Mr. Kende Ogdimu, CEO of the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company. Thank you, Kende, over to you. You've got 8 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to everyone, and I thank the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce and Commerce for this opportunity to speak. I'll start on existing protocol. So today I will be speaking about who we are at NMRC, what we are doing, and what we'll continue to do. We are a solutions provider. We're trying to break barriers to home ownership in Nigeria. So I'll just start, you know, for those who might not know about NMRC, who are we? So we're a private sector driven company with the public purpose of promoting home ownership in Nigeria by deepening the primary and secondary mortgage markets. We're an implementation of a component of the National Housing Finance Program, which is an initiative of the Central Bank, the World Bank, the Federal Ministry of Finance, and the Federal Ministry of Housing. Within that initiative, there were other components which included the Housing Microfinance, the Mortgage Guarantee Company, and technical assistance. We deepened the primary and secondary mortgage markets by on-lending funds that we raise from the debt capital markets to mortgage lenders, thereby providing access to affordable housing. So essentially, we are a wholesale lender, and we intermediate between the financial markets, where the assets are created, the mortgage loans, and the debt capital market, where long-term funding is available. So we intermediate to make sure that we match what people are creating as assets with long-term funding. We are regulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and we currently have 26 members. 24 of those are shareholders. 24 of those shareholders are banks. 5 of them are commercial banks. 19 of them are primary mortgage banks. And then we have the Federal Ministry of Finance under MOFI, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, and then the Sovereign Wealth Fund as the 2 other shareholders. At NMRC, we encourage the principle of responsible financing. We want through-in lending. We want people to be clear about what we are doing. We want those who are taking mortgages to know every cost, what it entails, you know, so that there's transparency across the entire industry and people know what they're getting into and why they're getting into it, and it is something that is good for them. Let me just share a few grim statistics, and some of these have been mentioned by some of the earlier speakers. You know, the number of housing shortfall that we have in Nigeria range from 10 to 20-something million. So whatever it is, we don't know the number because we haven't done the study in a while, but we know it is the highest per capita in the world. So the housing shortage, you know, so if you divide India's number by their population, and you divide ours by our population, you realize that Nigeria has the highest shortage per capita. So that one, there's no doubt about that. And then if you look at what is, you know, another factor that you want to look at is why do we have this? It's because we have very low mortgage penetration. Evidence has, you know, evidence has shown that there's a direct correlation, a direct relationship between home ownership and mortgage penetration, which is measured by the mortgage debt to the GDP of a country. Though these numbers that I'm showing on this slide are a bit dated, but they're still relevant. We have one of the lowest mortgage penetration in the world at less than 1%. South Africa has 32, China, India, and all of those people are making steady progress. So the next question you will ask, and everybody talks about, oh, but you have the pension fund, and I'm just showing the latest statistics from the pension fund here. So as at the end of the second quarter, which is the latest data that they have there, we have 11 trillion in our pension fund assets as of the end of the second quarter. But of that amount, only 11 billion is invested in mortgage finance. And that's what you have here, what's called the agency, NMRC and FMB. And actually it's only NMRC. So bonds have been, in NMRC bonds, only about 11 billion has been invested, which is 0.1% of the total pension assets. So the question anyone will ask is it that they don't want to put their money there? What is happening? Is it that the pension funds, well, what is making the pension industry not to want to put their money in the mortgage assets? And those are some of the challenges we'll go through. But as fund managers, their primary objective is to get the highest risk-adjusted return. Because they cater for just not those who want the houses, they also cater for our future. They're looking at those who have put their money and will be retiring soon. So they're trying to balance between what is needed to make housing affordable and what is needed to make living affordable after housing when you have retired. The next slide is just shows global statistics on pension assets around the world. And I'm zeroing in here on Kenya and Nigeria. If you look at the Nigerian pension asset, about 70% of it is in government instruments, so it's not diversified, it's not robust enough. In Kenya, just about 40% or 45% thereabout is, but it's well spread out across all the asset classes, so that makes Kenya a little bit less vulnerable to shocks because you have a diversified base instead of just the government instruments that we have in Nigeria. But again, there are reasons. Why is it that most of our pension assets are not in other things other than government instruments? And it's because of the challenges we have in the build sector. So as I'm speaking today, the pension funds, they want to invest in NMRC bonds. Anytime we have gone to the market, we have always had 100%, 200%, over 200% oversubscription on the instruments that we're issuing. But we are not able to create enough assets to back the bonds that we want to issue. And part of those challenges are what is on this slide. We have these lengthy and costly land registration and title systems across the country. We have these lengthy and protracted foreclosure processes across the country. And we have regulatory hurdles. Even for us to issue instrument, it takes almost, you have to get this approval, get that approval and all of that. Even for a repeat issuer and for a AAA issuer like NMRC. One of the biggest challenges we also had is the high interest rate. And I'm happy to report that has been moderating. So even I believe that our next bond, which we will issue very shortly, the interest rate is coming down. So affordability should be improving. How sustainable this is, given that inflation is about 13%, is not clear to us. So, but it appears that it's a catch-22. You bring down the interest rate and then the inflation comes down, you bring down the interest rate. But our prayer is that the interest rate will remain low so that we can get more people to get their homes. The next challenge is infrastructure challenges, which my colleagues have mentioned, and then the high cost of construction. So we at NMRC, we have looked at all of these challenges and we are tackling them one by one. And what are we doing? First of all, we said we needed to make sure that mortgage origination becomes seamless and easy and uniform across the entire spectrum. So whichever bank you go into, you'll be able to get your loan, you know what the criteria is. The bank that is giving you the loan also knows the things to look out for so that they can reduce their risk and all of that. So we worked with other stakeholders in industry to come up with a uniform underwriting standard, which is now the standard in the industry. So you have the underwriting standard for the formal sector, the informal sector, the diaspora, and the non-interest finance. We also realize that the legal framework that is very important and is directly correlated to the investment that you have in housing. And Section 315 of the Nigerian Constitution enshrines the Land User Act as part of the Constitution. So there are a few acts in the Constitution, a few acts that are enshrined in the Constitution, so almost impossible to change them. The Public Complaints Commission Act, the Youth Service Act, and the National Security Agencies Act are part of the Constitution, just like the Land Use Act, so we cannot change them. So we brought in some of the brilliant minds in the legal profession to come up with a modern mortgage and foreclosure law, which addresses the 2 points that are up here, the land registration issues and the protracted foreclosure issues. So we're able to address that by coming up with a legal framework that states are beginning to adopt to help us to get through those. So I'm happy to report that as we speak today, 6 states have already signed this into law. I expect that 3 other states will sign, Kwara, Osun, and Edo before the end of this year, and many more states are in the pipeline. So we have been able to, as an institution, been able to navigate around that major issue. We also have, well, I was also very bullish in our technological outreach, because we realize that we have to look at the entire value chain and see how we can make this easy for people to get, either to get financing for construction or financing for housing or the entire thing. So we have the mortgage market system that we have put in place. We're also working with the World Bank on the electronic mortgage assets register that will allow for the easy transfer of assets. We at NMRC are also the host of national information data on housing. So things that will help us to plan and make sure that housing is something that is affordable and seamless and cheap for fellow Nigerians, we have been concentrating upon. We have also been very aggressive in our mortgage awareness campaigns, because we believe that mortgage education is very important for Nigerians to know what homeownership does to them. It's the biggest source or the fastest way for people to accumulate wealth. We not only talk to Nigerians on mortgage and the importance of it, we also try to train those who are the operators in the industry. Finally, I know my time is a little fast spent. We're also working on the Nigerian Mortgage Guarantee Company. NMRC is the host and anchor institution for this, and we're speaking with, I'm glad that my brother Andrew is on the call from Shelter Africa. They are also agreed to partner with us, as equity holder in this institution. This institution will give default loss protection to commercial banks and also make access to housing easier for people because they don't have to look for the 20% equity down payment. They can get some insurance here instead of waiting to get the 20% equity down payment. So these are some of the things that we're doing. In conclusion, at NMRC, we're always looking for ways to remove the barriers to home ownership, and we will continue to do this. I think my time is spent, so I will stop here for now. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ubudimu. Interesting perspective of what NMRC is doing. I was going to say that outside of Shelter Africa, we consider you one of the oldest, and outside of the initial entities that were set up, we consider you one of the oldest newbies in the industry as far as real estate, housing, and finance is concerned. And so the fact that you're tackling all these challenges instead of staring at them as has happened before is really positive news. That those challenges may be around with us for a very long time, but there are always ways around the challenges. So well done, thank you. It's interesting to hear you talk about the guarantee company that would actually democratize access to finance for home ownership. Thank you so much for that. And now our last, but not the least speaker today is Mr. John Orman, who comes from the private sector entirely, but also a very technology-based, technology-driven individual, and who runs companies that are supposed to also ensure that there's efficiency in the delivery of housing. Over to you, and you've got 8 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Jumoke. It's such an awesome privilege to be here. Thank you to all the panelists and all protocols observed. It's been very interesting and also quite comforting that the future of our industry is in great hands. And I'm honored to be here as well. I'm going to be speaking very specifically to the high cost of construction, which I see that a few of all the other panelists have spoken to at different points. I think that a lot of these conversations would stimulate further actions towards us bridging the affordable home gap and of course, making homes more affordable, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. Once again, I say a big thank you on behalf of LiveEnd for the opportunity to be here. So I would start. I'm confirming that you can see my screen and that you can hear me clearly. Madam Jumoke, please. Can anyone confirm that you can hear me, please?
Yes, and we can see you.
Yes, we can hear and see you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So basically, just trying to be a bit granular in discussing affordable housing. Affordability basically talks about prices being friendly enough for people to be able to afford, specifically in the construction and the home industry, as we're discussing today. Budget-friendly pricing, and of course, ability for people to be able to purchase homes either with a one-off down payment or spread over time. And so it begs the question if we can build for less than we're currently building, and I'm sure the answer is yes. I was very impressed to see the figures by the first panelist talking about, affordable housing at about 3 million max. Now imagine, a future where beyond, just that total cost, we could actually see, the breakdown of this cost to know where exactly, funds are going. You can imagine all that will be able to spring up from that in terms of, even businesses positioning, if I know how many blocks I'm going to use to build a project, for example, it can actually affect my decision making in the sense that I may decide to even begin to mold my block. Go commercial projects in construction are expected to go over budget. That's a whopping 80% of construction projects being in further slides around inefficiency and things like that. Efficiency rate in construction is estimated at 30%. I think from my experience, the numbers may even dwindle a bit higher. And a lot of this comes back to, the fact that the industry hitherto has been very traditional. I heard Mr. Andrew talking about them being open to the use of time where, the construction industry can be a lot more standardized than it is today. A few other statistics include one from, a CEO that I'm fond of also in Africa, Kevin Wachira, where he said, construction projects generally take 20% more time and 80% over their set budget. That funds to the space. It's been, no secret that the construction industry has generally been slower, in adopting technology and innovation because of the traditional processes that we're used to. But we're steadily, improving on that, and we're hoping that, meetings like this will further increase the propensity for us to, work towards that way. Just to also show that the processes and have made it cheaper for people to deliver affordability. I remember there were times when I would probably doubt somebody is not at home. Today with technology, a lot of us don't go anywhere without picking up our mobile phones to make sure, you know, the person we're going to see is there. And that has, of course, reduced a lot of inefficiency and a lot of cost. Now, businesses that have embraced the innovation paradigm have achieved one major thing, and that, I think, is one of the major things that we're discussing today, which is they spend less and they achieve more. Now, I know the figures that we discussed earlier, like I was talking about the 3 million per property, are quite impressive, but imagine if they could even be better. And imagine if more players in the industry, apart from, you know, the public sector players, could come in, because there's ability to do more with less. This is the world that LiveEnd is hoping to promote and hoping to, you know, bring forth to Africa. One thing that is important to us is that we want to be able to dent our space. And for us, it means that even though we're not able to solve all the problems, I mean, we know what a task it is to solve the affordable housing problem. We want to play our own little part towards making sure that this aspect of the industry is properly catered to through a variety of the products that we've come up with. What does technology basically bring to the table? Technology is not a miracle worker. It basically brings innovation to processes. That means it makes processes a lot more standardized and a lot more, you know, structured so that you can repeat your success. I think part of the problem that we've seen in the industry, in my experience, is that a lot of times, you know, you're able to do something once, but once you begin to scale, you know, you start to see the cracks because processes are not standardized. I mean, we know the issue with education and stuff like that. So construction technology basically is there to standardize these processes to see and repeat your success, you know, over time. It's also there, you know, to save time. And of course, we know time is money. So if time is saved, definitely that affects the bottom line. It trickles down to the bottom line. And of course, in terms of operations, you know, streamlining the information between the sites and the offices. A lot of construction projects are basically modeled in offices, but the truth is the actual work is done on site. And if there is a divide between the minds that have structured this project and the people actually carrying out the work, definitely things like that lead to extra costs and are counterproductive to our efforts towards affordable housing. I know my time is fast spent, so I'll quickly run through this. Now, for us, we believe that if technology is properly implemented in the construction space, you will see a lot more connectivity, like I just talked about, between the sites, a lot of more collaboration. Even workers will need to upskill themselves because accountability will be introduced. And so people will need to deliver good service to make sure that they can actually earn their pay. A lot of building, you know, will begin to be on the increase. I mean, if people knew, for example, that we're about to do this much housing, you know, like some of my colleagues have talked about, and it's immediately apparent that there's an opportunity there for a new business. And the truth is, if we're able to flood the demand, the supply, of course, prices will come down because there will be more competition in the space, healthy competition. And of course, this would affect our bottom line. The idea is for us to get to a point where the construction industry is almost, and I say almost, bearing, of course, the realities, but as structured as, you know, the financial sector, where you can actually know that I'm getting into a project, I'm going to spend X amount, I'm going to deliver my project, and I will be able to sell it at X+1 without, you know, the fear of all the issues that typically have plagued the industry thus far. LiveEnd, as you see a screenshot of some of our products, is at the heart of that. I think that's what makes us wake up every day, to be quite honest. A few of the things that we're working seriously at, you know, being able to achieve and already achieving for some of our clients include establishing, you know, that digital ecosystem where data, you know, is key. I have at the last point they're saying listening to your data, but it actually occurs to me that a lot of times data kind of jumps at you. at a very, very basic level. I was doing a review a couple of years ago on my expenses, for example. And at the time, you know, because I'm a 6'6", you know, tall person. And I always said, oh, I needed to be in an SUV. And so looking through my expenses over the year, one of the years, I saw how much I was spending on petrol. It automatically changed my paradigm. All of a sudden, the sedan became more appealing because, of course, knowing, you know, what I wanted to do at the time and seeing how much was just being spent on that one item, you know, data basically jumps at you. Once you know what you are doing, once you know, have specific, you know, better informed decisions. And one of the things that we're also doing, so imagine, you know.
Okay, you've got to wrap up now, Selman.
Building a project, there's so much more that you can do with such information. I see you, Jumoke, so I'm going to quickly, innovation is upon us, and we must keep with every single code and application, and I would say effort as seen by the team. And I will just leave us with this, if you don't mind, and if you let me play it for 10 seconds for us to look at. This is what technology is saying to every process that we know. And hopefully we won't be like this guy who is so busy help is right beside him.
Thank you.
And over to you.
Thank you very much, the technology guru. Thank you for sharing with us. I mean, those initial statistics were very, 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 very sad. 30% efficiency, 80% of projects go over budget, 20%, which is probably an underestimation, go over time, and how technology can help solve many, many of these problems on and off site. Thank you so much for that. So we've had our first round of discussions with our 4 panelists and I think 4 speakers, and I think that the information that's been provided for many people would be some new information, and then there's some stuff to chew on. And please keep the questions coming. It's extremely important that we have an engaging session. I want to use this opportunity to thank our host, the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, and also all our sponsors, Octo5 and Live Vend, as well as the other 2 sponsors, which are the Lagos Building Investment Company and Refine Homes Limited. Thank you so much. I think at this point, we have a short presentation by one of the sponsors, Octo5 Holdings. So I hand it over to the Secretariat. Please run with the short presentation. Thank you very much.
That is why, at Octo5, over the last 20 years, we have perfected innovative housing solutions, making houses more accessible and affordable with flexible payment plans backed by our tried and trusted mortgage partners, guaranteed to give you that peace we know you so richly deserve. Building your own home from ground zero is always a dream come true. Until you realize how easily it can become a nightmare. At Octo 5, we ensure your dreams are secure by engaging in the best development practices, providing solutions, making homes more accessible and affordable across the nation. We promote secure and well-managed medium-density gated community. We set you free. Octo 5, freedom to own your home.
Well, thank you very much for that short break. We're now prepared to get into a Q&A session. I see that there are already a number of questions. While the admin is trying to organize it so that we ensure that we answer everybody's question, I would just quickly like to throw 1 minute questions to each of our speakers. And I am starting with you, Andrew. I hope you are there. We heard you say that Nigeria has become the second largest shareholder after Kenya in Shelter Africa. So it's important for us to actually understand what exactly Shelter Africa will be doing in Nigeria, knowing that we now have, should we say, a premium position in the committee of investors in Shelter Africa. So you've got 1 minute to answer that. Thank you.
Now, let me start. We heard my brother Kehinde state that we are partnering with him in terms of providing equity investment in the Nigeria mortgage guarantee company. I think those are real things. We are definitely delivering on that. We also have specific public-private partnerships already under discussion with the Kaduna State and a few others. I'm just talking maybe at a high level now. Mm-hmm. When I said, when I came today, I had a check for Femi Adiwole, but the agreement was he needs to be present. With all due respect, I respect Honorable Yakubu, the Chief Investment Officer, but that is part of what we are saying we want to do. We have money, but if people are not coming to collect the money, Madam Program Director, it becomes difficult. What do we do with it? But on a serious note, we are serious about Nigeria. It is the largest market in terms of housing. Nigeria is, as I said, second largest shareholder and soon to be possibly the largest. And it's not enough what I'm talking about, what we're doing, but as we've said, we want to come up with models of successful public partnerships that then become replicable across all the significant states within Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Nigeria is going to take its pride of place in all the pilot schemes, I suppose, because often you have to test these partnerships and arrangements out and then learn from them. Thank you. Yes. Thanks so much. I see a number of questions have rolled in already. And of course, when you throw data out, people kind of grab the data. Just quoting what John himself had said, the data jumps at you. So one of the questions, and it's been repeated by so many people, is can you share a breakdown of how you arrived at this 2 million naira for the cost of a building? Is the 2 million budget for cost of housing to deliver a fully built house, or is this the shell? A number of questions around that. So somebody did say 2 million house. So I guess this somebody has to explain a little bit in a minute what exactly it means when you're delivering houses in that price bracket. So Mr. Yakubu, over to you in 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. This is a question that is very much expected. And trust me, it will be asked by many Nigerians going down the road. But this is what we have done. And the principle or philosophy behind it is that if you are determined and you find the road, you find the strategy, you actually can achieve the difficult now. Now, what is that strategy? The first is to take a look at the cost components of housing generally. Like I said, the biggest component that pushes the price up is the infrastructure. If we can request to all the state governments and all the cooperatives to give us land to do these houses in multiples of 500 units, we would be able to address the issue of infrastructure and make housing available to a few more people at a lower price. But if we have to add the cost of infrastructure, then clearly it will be a no deal. But if you then drop this on the table and say to the 36 state governors and say to the over 70,000 cooperatives and such societies in Nigeria, give us land that has infrastructure and we will put up houses for low-income people that will range from 1 bedroom to the maximum of 3 bedroom, that will not have so many luxuries, that will provide the basics, but also ensure that people move from slums into fairly decent housing. This is achievable.
We understand.
Secondly, secondly, and very important, yes.
Mm-hmm. Please wrap up.
Secondly, and very importantly, we have designs that we've done and that we have spent a great deal of time and effort reviewing with several different partners and parties. And if we do multiples and multiples of these 500 units across the entire country, we are hoping, and we have seen the prices show, that we can achieve economies of scale. So what we've done is try to attack each and every element that is a price push and push it back to the barest minimum. At the moment, we're doing a sample site in Day, where we hope to have a commissioning very soon. And afterwards, we will be doing 1,000 units at the same location in Day. The land has already been negotiated with the police. We are going to do a mixed facility where both police and members of the public that actually fall into this category of low income.
We need to wrap up now. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Yes. Thank you. So clearly it's a question of when the big headache of infrastructure and the cost of infrastructure is taken out, using simple design. So buildability is also a factor. It is possible to deliver houses at that price point. Somebody also comments that 70% of Nigerians are in any case unable to own anything. I guess that will be a conversation for another day about what social housing really means and the policies that surround that. Quick next question for someone who says, how do I, as a property development professional in the UK, become a part of the change in Nigeria in relation to improving the housing provision in Nigeria? I think that this response will come, I guess, maybe from the group in the Nigerian mortgage just hold on 1 second. I'm trying to figure out who should answer this question. Perhaps it should be you, but can you say in a few words, Mr. Yakubu, what should, you're looking at partners, you're looking at expertise, what should this gentleman who is a property developer professional in the UK do in terms of engaging with FHF?
Very quickly, I will assume that we've already built up some capacity in this area. He can easily check up the website and send information looking at the 4 different buckets of activity that we carry out for FHFL's own fund. So he can start with affordable housing, for instance. Also, when we set up the portal, for the National Social Housing Program, this will provide opportunity for all Nigerians in country and out of the country to
participate.
Respond.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Contractors or whatever.
Okay, this question, next question is for you, Mr. Ogundimo. Dr. Larry Tarikoka says, I'm gratified that nearly all the presenters mentioned funding. But what about the role of technology in its aspects? As a practitioner in the construction industry of over 44 years, that aspect and the aspects of land provision and non-availability of long-term funding are the big elephants in the room and are well identified. Mr. Ogundimo, is that a question you can tackle? It was directed at you. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Funding, funding. As I said, if you look at one of that slide I had on the pension assets, funding used to be an issue in the past. So or liquidity used to be an issue. It's no longer an issue because the PFAs are ready to fund disburse money through an established fund like an NMRC. So it's not a question of even getting funding. We discuss with people from outside and things that we have enough liquidity within the system. It was the cost of the liquidity that was a challenge. So even when people will say, okay, you can get funding from outside of Nigeria at 2%, well, by the time you look at the cost of hedging, the foreign currency portion of it, it becomes even more expensive than in Nigeria. So I'll say there is funding now in Nigeria from the pension funds, and rates are coming down. So I think it will be, we should see more money or funds going into this sector going forward. However, we're still open to ideas and suggestions because nobody's an island. So if Mr. Toyekoka has ideas that he wants to share with us or other things, we'll be glad to sit down and talk with him.
Okay, brilliant. There's a subsequent question for you, Mr. Ogundimo. It's good to read about the Mortgage Guarantee Initiative of the NMRC. Is there a mechanism that increases access to affordable housing to the informal sector? An example of this is what Sintelect is doing in India, widening access to bank loans to the informal sector. Yes, so really targeting not just the bottom of the pyramid, but that subset of the informal sector.
Yes, and as I said, one of the things that we did was to look at the informal sector because, it's not, even a lawyer who may be a senior advocate in Nigeria will be classified as informal because his money is not regular and all of that. So working with others in the industry, we have developed an underwriting standard for such sectors. So we have an informal underwriting standard for granting mortgages to those in the informal sector. The criteria is a little different, and it's going to be more of on, even though there's a generic one, it will also be looked at on an individual basis. So yes, especially in Nigeria, where about 75% of the population is the informal sector, it's not a sector that we can ignore. Yes. So we take that very seriously, and we have a standard for doing that. And I'm glad to report that we are beginning to see mortgages being originated for that sector, and some of which we have refinanced. So it was a sector that was avoided in the past, but it's becoming clearer and people are getting better, especially now that you have the credit bureau in Nigeria that are giving credit scores and a few other ways of measuring the income for that category of people, because they don't have pay slip that is regular, they don't have a few things, but there are a few other things that you can check to make sure that they're eligible for facilities like that. Yeah.
That is good to hear. That is good to hear. This question is for Shelter Freak. So Andrew, Lagos is particularly highly populated and requires special focus in resolving its housing challenge in terms of affordable housing. Is there any specialized fund from Shelter Freak that is structured to support a state like Lagos, I assume a city like Lagos, on mass housing, and how can we go about gaining access to this fund?
Thank you, Madam Jumoke. I appreciate the privilege. So I think when the writers say specialized funding, I think it's an educated way of saying cheap financing. And I think from us, what I can say is that, Lagos is obviously a critical, market for us as Shelter Afrique. And what I would like to say is that our funding, we're getting it from, a lot of these global developmental financial institutions it's in US dollars, and it comes at an average of 4%. Then we get the funding from the countries, which is equity. So when we come up with the weighted average cost, it is what then determines how much we can provide for the different markets, particularly Lagos. And if we get grant funding at zero interest rates, of course, we can pass it on, particularly when you talk of specific social housing projects. So what I can say at this stage is that we can only provide the funding that's in line with our weighted average cost of funding. We have a separate, fund through our Center of Excellence. Now that fund is more to promote, to promote activities relating to more the research capacity, of course, advocacy. So that for me is a long explanation to say there's no zero cost funding at the moment, but what we can do is to develop specific packages for specific housing projects where we blend cheap funding with expensive funding so that the end funding cost is acceptable to make the project sustainable from a financial perspective. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And then I believe there's a couple of questions here also for John. How is the use of prefabricated homes being implemented in Nigeria? Because this is the new, the silver bullet for home delivery in the UK.
In the UK or in Nigeria? Well,
no, so the question is, how is the use of prefabricated homes being implemented in Nigeria, if it is at all? Because they see this as the silver bullet for home delivery in the UK. Are we losing you?
I guess that's the thought.
All right, okay.
Okay, so I was saying, I think importantly, every action starts at we, I mean the industry, not necessarily live vend, just to put that out. So we've been thinking about how to begin to replicate such here. And I'm proud to say that an indigenous company owned by a friend of mine as well has currently started, testing out prefab materials that can be used to build modular buildings. And so the outcome of this is that the building a lot faster, and that is being, worked on.
Okay. Like
with every other thing around, we're basically at the point where we position ourselves.
Your line is slightly poor. You keep breaking off.
For the future,
Okay, the long and short answer is yes, the scope exists.
It works.
Yeah, okay, and it works, and it is being tested as we speak. Fantastic. There are a couple of questions here also actually related to NMRC and FH and Family Homes Funds kind of together. How can the low-income earner in the informal sector be helped? We're talking about vulnerable people in cities such as Lagos and Nairobi. What is the government? How is the government assisting the private sector in achieving this? I guess this speaks to housing for the urban poor, and if there's any specific initiative, which you've kind of answered, because really a large chunk of the urban poor is also in the informal sector. And so there seems to me to be something going on there. In terms of delivery of homes, FHF, without meaning to put you on the spot, is there anything for social housing in the sense of people who really simply cannot even afford to own a 2 million naira house?
All right, let's be brutally honest with the matter.
Yes.
Because I think that then we would also find the real solutions. The difference between social housing and affordable housing, in my opinion, is that one would require a great deal of subsidy or much more subsidy from the government, if I'm right. And I think that it's only the government that should have the responsibility of catering to this. So for those who are completely vulnerable, government must find a way of providing for these. Systems such as rent to own with family homes funds is also fast developing. I think can come in to address some of the problems of the most vulnerable. But then it means that the man must still be able to afford to pay a certain monthly rental bill. But if he is in such a state that he's jobless and he's sleeping on the street and he can't afford health care, and the government must provide subsidy to take care of this.
You're right. Okay, thank you. And back to you again, Mr. Gudimu. What specific role is NMRC actually playing in the implementation of this 200 billion naira housing program that is being led by, well, the question here is, it's being led by Family Homes Funds. It's actually being initiated by the central bank, and the Family Home Funds is the
manager.
Yes, the manager of it. So what role is NMRC playing in this?
So so there are two pillars to this. So there is the demand side and the supply side. And as my brother Sani Yakubi presented, FHF is concentrating on the supply side. So the 200 billion is entirely for supply, so that's where FHF is working. There's the demand side, and the government is working with FMBN on that. And we're also pitching in that given our cost structure, our technology, and the things we have and the proven record, we might even be a cheaper alternative for that. When you look at NMRC, our total cost is so minimal compared to our other competitors. So if you give the same amount of funding or the same cost to NMRC, and you give the same cost to another company, our sister company, we will lend lower than them because we have a very thin margin. So to answer that question, the 200 billion is purely for the supply side. There will be an intervention again on the demand side, because no matter what you do on the supply, there's no demand to offtake that. So we're working with FHF. In fact, last week, the MD of Family Home Funds was in our office here. We discussed a few things, and then after, I think on Thursday, we also met with the International Finance Corporation on some of these things. Some of these are proprietary, which I will not share, but we're working with them to see what role we can play in getting homes or making homes more affordable to Nigerians.
Thank you. That's interesting, because, I mean, as you said, there's no point focusing on building stock when the attention to buying the stock is not there. So it's a good thing to hear that synergy is opening up. A follow-on question to you, Mr. Gudimu. Somebody is asking the question, what are the 6 states that have signed the model mortgage and foreclosure law? Just before you answer that question, I remember that there was the conversations with within Family Homes Funds as well about really just addressing the signages with NMRC, ensuring that Family Home Funds largely dealt with the states that had signed up on the foreclosure law. I wonder if we stuck with that or not.
Yes, we did. We did. And then, in fact, I think last year, the MD of Family Home Funds and I went to see the Enugu State Governor together, so that we make sure that at least we are aligned and in sync. Sorry, it's just 5 states that have signed, and those states are Lagos, Kaduna, Nasarawa, Ogun, and Ekiti State. I can assure this audience that in the next 2 or 3 months, Kwara, Osun, and Edo will also sign. And then we're also in advanced talk. So these ones have moved, and they're moving quickly. So we'll have at least about a dozen states before the end of this year, and then many more will follow. It has caught on fire now. People are seeing the benefits because they are seeing what we are doing with Kaduna State, how it's attracting investment to Kaduna. In fact, Lagos State last week, the governor just sent a modified version, because they have a bill already, they have a law already, but they are modifying a few things to make it align with us. So it's going to the State House of Assembly. So states are beginning to latch onto this because it affects their ranking even on the World Bank Index of how to do business or the ease of doing business. And then there's also an IGR thing for them, because if your processes are clear and simple, you attract more investors, you have more houses, so you have more income from taxes and things like that. So it's a win-win for everybody. And so I believe that yeah, let me stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody also asked a question about modular housing. I think that that will be the same as talking about prefab housing. And so that question's been answered. It's an interesting opportunity for our country. There's a bit of education that will be required, because I recall many years ago when some product was brought into Nigeria and it wasn't blockwork or concrete. There was pushback for a while, but at the end of the day, pricing can win the game. So as long as it is rightly priced, it is worth exploring. So thank you. I don't think there's any need for anyone to respond to that. Somebody makes a comment here about streamlined processes for securing building consent in Nigeria. This is clearly somebody who is not in Nigeria. It takes a lot of time, considering the time it takes, it may potentially inhibit housing development. One of the things that we have learned from this seminar, if we want to call it that, is that a lot of people are finding ways around many of the issues. These issues are well known, but the key thing here and the focus of this discourse is what are the things that we are doing to address or to deal with the problems. The problems could remain for a very long time. So Mr. Adimolake, I think that would be the answer to your question. Somebody asked the question, how does an interested individual or organization that's not high net worth as such participate passively by way of investment in the housing or real estate sector? What areas can we plug in? Who wants to answer that?
I'll attempt to do that. So we have a few REITs and that are listed out there. So if the shares are tradable, I think the person can get in through that. So passively. And there are also some other very bright ideas and innovative ideas coming on housing, student housing, and all of that people will be listing very soon. So it's something that through either some form of equity participation or just buying some mutual funds and all of that, you can participate remote in that sector. Okay,
that's great. I believe that Mr. or when you want to speak to the interest that is coming from outside of Nigeria.
Yes, madam. You said something very important in your last remark that I wanted to basically forward about a lot of the things that we're working on. So for anybody who is interested in the sector, lives in the UK, you have access to a smartphone, you have access to data. Let's begin to talk about these statistics. I saw your reaction when you heard what an inefficiency rate is and what of projects will go over budget, for example. So if we begin to talk a lot more about some of the issues and some of the potential solutions, begin to debunk some of the plagued our industry where people don't trust technology or don't trust innovation or don't trust modular housing because they feel like, breeze will come and take it away or something like that. Just getting our hands on the plow in terms of information sharing, which is totally free. So you don't need to be a high net worth individual. Let's see that we'll be proud of our country.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Seems to me like technology is the answer to everything. But I've said that jokingly, but in reality, it does answer to a number of questions, and especially does help us to address the critical issues that we have that are really issues that should be swept off the table very quickly, issues of inefficiencies in the processes. Thank you so much for that. There's somebody who obviously could be, has asked a question, how can low-income civil servants benefit from mortgages in Nigeria since they cannot access their contributions until they're 60 or retired from service? At the time, many are too old to start building houses for their families. What can be done to make the present policy more civil servant friendly? Who is going to attempt to answer this question?
I'll attempt that, then I'm sure my brother Sani will also.
Yes.
So there's a product help to own by Family Homes Fund,
Correct.
which will be a blend of like a conventional mortgage through NMRC's affiliate banks, and then some form of assistance from Family Home Funds. So the way to have it, it's a kind of weighted interest thing. So you get like 50% at the commercial rate, and then you get some funding from Family Home Funds. Initially, it will be zero interest, and then over time it graduates up, and then you start paying. So that over time you're able to pay a weighted average interest rate that is much lower and is affordable to that segment of the industry. So there's a product that FHF is working on, which we will also participate through the 50% commercial aspect that will bring down that for those in that industry. But I'm sure my brother might have other comments.
That's interesting. And that's another area where we're seeing signages between the agencies, which is really critical to solve the problem. Thank you for that. And finally, this is the very last question. And Mr. Yakubu is directed at you, says that you said that the projects will be executed by young professionals. That is good. But if we're to use technology and modular construction and so on to reduce costs, how will these young builders get access to the technology? Building by traditional methods won't work if you give one contractor 500 units to build. Over to you.
That's a very pragmatic question. I do agree with John that technology does a lot of problem solving. But in also addressing our issues as a society, we are also very careful to ensure that it also does not exacerbate our unemployment numbers. So that's why countries like India are building local roads using manual labor, not because they don't have technology, but because this has its own place and it can help resolve issues. Our portal is going to have protocols that will ensure that we actually do take young people. In fact, it's one of our mandates, and the presidency is very concerned about this. We've received marching orders on this specific issue to ensure that one big contractor does not come and take the construction of all 500 units at the site. That's actually why we have a place for SME delivery partners. And these SME delivery partners are not going to be big players, they are going to be relatively small players. And also we have the relationship with cooperatives that we hope will provide an opportunity for almost all Nigerians to be able to find some kind of benefit, in this program. Yes,
absolutely. Thank you for that response. That makes sense. So the big struggle and the balance between delivering efficiently but not excluding the people who should benefit from the entire process. Thank you. So all the other questions that have come up, and there's still a number of them, are going to be answered, and responses will be put on the website of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much. I would now like to hand over to Mr. Igian, who is the Vice President of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all our listeners, all the people who asked questions, our panelists. You've done a fantastic job today. I know that the conversations must continue, and we must come back to demonstrate results based on the conversations that we've had today. Thank you very much indeed.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the President and the Chairman of the Council, Mr. Kayode Falowo, it is my pleasure, my privilege, and my honor to say thank you, especially to our sponsors this afternoon. If not for your sponsorship, there is no way this program would have been a success. And in no particular order, I want to say thank you to Octo 5 Thank you and thank you very much. Your sponsorship was deeply and heavily appreciated. I also want to say thank you to Refinance Homes. Thank you for being part of the program. We deeply, deeply appreciate your participation. LBIC Mortgage Bankers, thank you and thank you and thank you very much. Live Vend, we appreciate your sponsorship. Thank you and thank you very much. Of course, there is no way we would have had a very good program if not for the quality speakers that we had this afternoon. They made information readily available to us, and they gave us a lot of education as far as affordable housing is concerned, especially here in Nigeria, the new frontiers. And in no particular order, I also want to say thank you to Mr. Femi Adewale, the MD CEO of Family Homes Fund, who was very well represented by Mr. Yakubu Sani. We say thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the perspective that you gave, especially on this topic this afternoon. My gratitude also goes to Mr. Andrew Chiponda, the MD CEO of Shelter Afrique, all the way from Kenya. We say thank you. Thank you for the contribution. Thank you for all the answers that you provided, especially to the questions that we are thrown at you this afternoon. And my gratitude also goes to Mr. Kende Ogundemu, the Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company Limited. We are grateful for your sponsorship. We are grateful for your participation, and we are grateful for your contribution. And Mr. John Omen, the co-founder and the Chief Executive Officer of Live Vend, we say thank you for your contribution and for your perspective, especially from a private sector. We are deeply, deeply, deeply grateful. Of course, I must let the moderator know that you did an incredible job. You made the program very lively, and I say thank you to you. Thank you to Mrs. Jumoke Akinwumi, the co-founder of Alitia Capital. Thank you and thank you very much. There is no way my gratitude will be complete if it is not extended to Mr. Akim Oguniran, who is the chairman of NBCC Construction and Real Estate Committee. I say thank you to you and your committee for a job that is well done. A job that is well done in terms of getting quality speakers to speak to us this afternoon, and the way you went about looking for sponsorship for the program. We are deeply grateful and more grace to your elbow. And I just want you to know that we are proud of you and your committee, especially at NBCC. Of course, to the Secretariat, always available, always accessible. We say thank you. We appreciate your support and your assistance and your contribution all the time. Thank you to all our participants. Thank you to everybody. But I just want us to quickly know that we have some upcoming events, and it is open to all. And I just want you to also know that patrons and captains of industry will be at this event. So you are all cordially invited. On the 14th of October, 2020, which is, of course, it's a Wednesday, we have Project Hope. Please, I just want you to know that you are invited. Let us note that date, 14th of October, 2020. Please note it in your diary, and let us have you at NBCC as we have that program on that day. There is another one that is coming up on the 15th of October at 12 noon, Nigeria's telecommunication industry, post-COVID. Please, you are cordially invited. The last but not the least, in the month of October, is African EduTech Conference, Jobs, Education and Technology, the new normal. This comes up on the 23rd of October, 2020. You are all cordially invited. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, our participants, and God bless you all. Thanks a lot. Let's have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.